Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tackling Sport. It's the first episode of 2022 after having a break for Christmas. Joining me, Sean Husty, on the podcast is my brother Daniel, as always.
How's it going, Sean?
How was your Christmas, Dan?
It was good. Eventful enough. So doing the old, half-hearted dry January at the moment. But yeah, other than that, working from home here. A lot of Wi-Fi technical difficulties, which is why we're a few minutes late. But it's good to be back.
And obviously, it's not Christmas without the darts. It was a brilliant. It's always a hard one, the darts, because it's the end of the year, but it's the start of the new year. It's going to depend on your outlook, but it was another special tournament at Ali Pali.
Yeah, like you said, the darts is always synonymous with Christmas, and like to be honest with you, the COVID cases, the likes of Gerwin Price, obviously wasn't too happy with the COVID cases and stuff like that. But it was a great old tournament. I know your Ryan Searle pick didn't quite live up to expectation. To be honest, Sean, I don't think he was ever at the level of the high 100s.
No, he did get beaten by the champion, so that's always something to hold. And of course, there was a lot of Premier League action to catch up on, a bit of horse racing, which we'll get into. But I think there's no better place to start, Dan, than what has been described as one of the greatest weekends in NFL history. You're obviously our resident fan. It's
Yeah,
a funny one. It's sports a bit like this, where I used to find it with the All Ireland games that the semi final weekend that's the big weekend of the year. That's the one where the neutral loves it. It's Saturday, Sunday. There's games on both days. The same with the FA Cup and the NFL. It didn't disappoint this weekend at all, did it?
no, like to be honest, that kind of crossed my mind as well. The old gas semi-final weekends. Yes, it's the divisional round. So basically, there's now two conference finals and then the Super Bowl. So look, essentially, it's the quarterfinal, but it's the semi-finals of each conference. So it was incredible stuff. And like what was great about it was there four different matches, if that makes sense. They were all close, but like the likes of 49ers Packers was in some ways it was so bad it was good sort of game in the snow towards the end. And like Packers went 7-0 up, Rodgers just fell apart to the rest of the game. So then you've obviously got Tom Brady leading the comeback against the Rams, who just kept trying to run the clock, like mad stuff that you wouldn't see in like under 10s in soccer. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, they were doing this in the playoffs, just trying to run the clock down instead of just trying to score touchdowns and win the game easily. The Bengals got the win against the Titans with a walk-off field goal. So the first three games were walk-off field goals, but that last game was like a quarterback back, was billed as a quarterback battle for the ages, and it actually exceeded those high expectations. Like some Mahomes and Josh Allen for Bills and Chiefs, that's going to be the next 20 years. Like every time you saw one of them go down, either sacked or you're like, please don't be an injury that's going to keep you out for a year or 2 years. They're that good. So like to be honest, that was essentially the Super Bowl. They're like way ahead. The Chiefs and the Bills. Maybe the Rams can possibly upset the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but that Bills Chiefs game, like for anyone that hasn't watched it yet, just watch the last 2 minutes. The lead changed like two or three times. It ended up going to overtime, and then you had the situation with the coin toss, where coin toss means that one team starts the ball in overtime, but if you score a touchdown, you get a walk off win. And I just think that's probably a tad unfair. The Chiefs kind of suffered against the Bucks a couple of years ago, and I think, or the Pats, sorry. So I think that rule probably needs to be looked at smaller. But yeah, 42-36, pretty outrageous stuff, and it was a late enough light, to be honest with you. But the playoffs, it's incredible drama. Like American football scripted for that drama. It's the most scripted sport in the world in terms of they do everything they can. Like 2 minute warning comes and you can still get three or four scores either end. It's amazing stuff. But last night was as good as I've ever seen it, if not the best ever, I'd say.
For those watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel for free. Those on Twitter, you can follow us and Facebook as well, and make sure to get us on all our social media. I'm just going to run through the results, Dan, for maybe people who aren't aware. The Chiefs stunned the Bills. Tampa Bay lost to the LA Rams. The 49ers beat the Packers. The Bengals beat the Titans. Um, I suppose I think the high profile of the games, if you like, with from an outside looking in, would be Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that was on Sunday night. It was the first game on Sunday. There's a lot of people now, which it seems to happen every year now, and has done for like the last 3 or 4 years since Tom Brady won those Super Bowls with the Patriots. A lot of people now are saying, surely this is the end. Is he gonna move into another sport? He's played a lot of high profile golf games, with Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson. You know, when you're at that age and you see it in the likes of Stephen Cluxton and Gaelic, whereas there's not an awful lot left for him to do, and it's probably what drives him. But do you see him back playing football next year?
Yeah, I think he'll give it at least one more year. I don't think he'll go out. Like, he led the comeback, he did everything right. Got it back to 27 all, and then the Rams they just managed to get the field goal. I actually think they should have taken the knee Bucks. I think there was like a minute on the clock and they didn't, and that ultimately cost it. But to answer your question, I think Brady will stay on another year. And then the other situation for those less into American football is also Aaron Rodgers, of course, who's grown up in this Tom Brady era. I don't think he wants to go out. Like, he was going to be the MVP for this year. Probably still will be if it's been voted on already. But that was an atrocious performance. Not just his fault, but to score 3 points after the opening quarter against the 49ers at home as well. It's just, yeah. So they're the two, because it's interesting dynamic now. You mentioned the Tom Brady thing, because you have this new era of Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I'm not just saying it, but the Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert. I think he can get to that level, or at least maybe just below that level. And it was absolutely atrocious that he didn't make the playoffs. The Chargers threw it away against the Raiders on the final day. I think they had a shot at the Super Bowl myself, but that's the new era. The likes of Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they're kind of like dwindling out. But it'd be great to see one or two more battles with Brady. Obviously, Brady Mahomes last Super Bowl, and that was huge. Remember, we were talking about at the time how that extra Super Bowl that Tom Brady got could cost Mahomes in 20 years' time. That two Super Bowl swing. But I think that Tom Brady will definitely stay on another year. Aaron Rodgers probably less likely, but I think he still will as well, just based on that performance in the playoffs. Because as I said, he was MVP this year, and despite all the COVID stuff he's been at, I think himself and Brady will stay on next year. They're too big for the league not to have them in some ways, but I think Brady will stay Bucks, and then Rodgers potentially Packers, or could go elsewhere.
And if you're watching on YouTube or on our Facebook or watching live, please get your comments into the show, and we'll read any out. Remember, we're going to have Brian Dowling join us as we look back on Energumene and Shishkin, and Shishkin, and what a titanic battle that was at Ascot over the weekend. We'll have a quick word on Premier League in a minute, Dan, but just before the Super Bowl, obviously you've got the Rams against the 49ers and the Bengals against the Chiefs. Where's your money being going for a Super Bowl final? Where's who do you think's gonna meet each other?
Yeah, and I kind of gave it away at the start, but yeah, it'll be Chiefs Rams. I'll be fairly confident that. I think the bookies are giving Chiefs 7-point head start, Rams, or 7 points, -7, and then the Rams -3. I can just see both of them winning. And then the interesting thing is, there's never been a Super Bowl that's been hosted in a franchise's stadium until last year with the Bucks, and we could get 2 in 2 years here now with the LA Rams in their new stadium, which is also shared with the Chargers as well. Actually, unreal stadium, and they've had their last couple of games there, and it's a bit of a Hollywood sort of all the celebrities show up, and I think they've latched onto the Rams as opposed to the Chargers, which was always going to happen given the Rams' history in LA. So it'd be very fascinating to see the Chiefs having to travel to the Rams and win it in LA, is why that game will be a lot closer than I think it otherwise will be. So I think home advantage could keep the Rams in it, but I do expect Mahomes and the Chiefs just to get there, because I thought the Rams' second half play calling was absolutely atrocious. So it'll be Chiefs Rams Super Bowl in 3 weeks. I'll be fairly confident in that, and it'll be the Chiefs to win their second one under Mahomes. So yeah, looking forward to that now, I have to say.
There's a lot of videos going around of Sean McVay's speech in the Rams dressing room, and in the back, front and centre was Stan Kroenke, and then behind him was his son Josh, who's supposed to be looking after Arsenal's affairs. And with 7 days left in the transfer window, I don't think Arsenal are going to be busy. But that's a quick segue into the Premier League. A lot has happened, Dan, since we were last on. I mean, where'd you start with the Premier League? You first of all, before you get into the title race, you have to give Everton a mention, and what's happening there with Rafa Benitez. I know for I think which was Rafa's last league win against Arsenal, when the place was bouncing despite everything that was going on. When you look at the list of potential Everton managers and you see the fan unrest after the game and the videos with Bill Kenwright and anxiety and the hate towards Cheery, like Everton are in a really difficult position. And in my own head, I was looking at the weekend, and in my you kind of think Everton are too big a club to go down, but then you remember Newcastle and Aston Villa were in the Championship a couple of years ago, and you look at a team like Nottingham Forest, and they haven't been in the Premier League in nearly 20 years. Leeds had it so far way out. Are Everton in real danger? I think their only saving grace is there's three pretty poor teams, four teams below them at the moment.
Yeah, you see, it's still my point I was just about to bring up. Yeah, the bottom four, it's really going to be between them, isn't it? Leeds seem to be getting players back slowly but surely. Like, again, their squad is so small. I think Brentford could get dragged into it, I suppose. It just seemed to have enough points at the start, but I think they haven't. I think they're like one win in 5 or 6 or 7 games. So I think it's 1 win 7 or 8 games for Brentford. On the Everton side of things, I think they'll just about be okay because they've got it away with it. But there's no such thing as a team good enough not to go down. I think going all the way back, I think 2002-03, West Ham got 42 points and ended up going down under Glenn Roeder. So they were, and that was a serious team, the likes of Jermaine Defoe on that team. And this Everton team is nowhere near that level. So you mentioned those big clubs that have gone down. Like, obviously Leeds went down in 2004 and took them 17 years to get back. So I just think they'll get away with it this year, given that Norwich, Newcastle, Watford, Burnley, I just can't see those 4 teams. They'll put some results together. And it just depends who Everton go for and the manager. Like, the Jose Mourinho, they seem to not have a clue what they're doing there, to be honest with you. And I think that's pretty evident. We heard the unrest when we were at the Everton Arsenal game, and it was only when the Arsenal players started winding the Everton fans up that it became an issue. So, yeah, for me, I think it just depends what they do. Obviously, big Duncan Ferguson there in the first game, losing 1-0 away to Villa, or losing 1-0 at home to Villa. Did I lose you there for a second?
Back towards the top of the table, you look at obviously the run Man City have been on,
I think have you lost it there, Sean? I'll just remove you from the stream. Yeah, so I think we might have lost Sean there. I'll just give him, he's frozen on my screen. So we will bring this to the, and this will be edited out beautifully in the podcast later, guys. If you want to give, we'll pick up that chat again. But we'll go to Shishkin and Energumene, and we're going to bring in Brian Dowling here for a second. So, Brian, how are you getting on? Sorry for bringing you in here live. Shishkin versus Energumene. First of all, welcome back to the podcast.
How are you, Dan? Yeah, great to be back. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I was talking to Sean earlier, and we're gonna get to the series. We're gonna start in a moment, and I think Sean's come back in, so he can add himself in a minute. But for your initial reaction to Shishkin versus Energumene, it was battle for the ages, and it's something we really wanted to talk about in the podcast.
I was pretty pulsating, wasn't it? You wouldn't want to have any heart problems watching a race like that, because it really set the heart racing. It was one of the finest spectacles of national hunt racing I've seen in the last couple of years. And the thing I really took away from the race was that it really proved to, the average. First of all, it would have probably brought in a lot of people who aren't really into racing because of how hyped up it was. But it proves that Cheltenham is not the be all and end all of the national hunt season. Like that, this is like that, and that you've seen in the past big trainers chickening out of races like this, saying, "Oh yeah, we'll find an alternative and get a couple of more wins into him, and then send him to Cheltenham because sure anything can happen there." But I think it was a real ballsy move by both Mullins and Henderson. I think it was brilliant, and I think a lot of other trainers now will take inspiration from it. That that this should be done a lot more, because it was fantastic. It was a fantastic horse race, and it was something now that'll live long in the memory of Ascot anyway, as a race course for a while on a national hunt scale, because it was tremendous.
Yeah, for me, like I think what made it so special is that outside Cheltenham factor. And I was trying to remember a few other finishes, and I was trying to include Cheltenham in my thoughts here. And the best three I came up with were the King George in 2015 with Viltor, and Q Car getting him on the line for atmosphere. Then there was Faugheen and Leopardstown in 2019. For me, I think this was right up there in terms of now those two races weren't up there with this one in terms of quality, but in terms of dramatic finishes. But Energumene, Shishkin, it was the fact that we had the unknown with Energumene, that while I think majority of us appreciated how good he was, he just hadn't had the opportunity. And then with Shishkin, he just looked so in trouble. I think 8.2, or I think it was 8-1 on the exchanges. He went at one stage. It's. I think we got everything out of that race, and the fact we got the finish, it sets it up like a Fury Wilder, which we're actually getting. But you get the rematch, then it's already set in dates, 22nd of March, I think, or the 15th of March. Sorry, well, Wednesday. It's going to be something else. But I think what made it so exciting was not just the race. We have that rematch to look forward to as well.
Oh, absolutely. Couldn't have put it any better. I suppose, you look at the whole real thing about the outside Cheltenham thing probably just makes it makes the spectacle of it even better, because when you look even further beyond that, these horses could meet in this division for the next 4 or 5 years over and back across the Irish Sea. There's talk of that Punchestown is going to be the next call after it, and then you have such great things to look forward to, because do bear in mind that this is only Energumene's and Shishkin's second start in open company. Like it's their first season at a novice company. I mean, sure, like these horses are only, Shishkin is Shishkin's only 8, and Energumene, I think, is he's 8 as well. So I mean, these horses could have 3 or 4 years at sticking to this division. So I mean, it's it just adds excitement. And I said to you, I think it's going to pull in a lot more people who aren't into racing, that this can really kickstart, because it is the making of a jewel now that can go on for a couple of seasons here. It's fantastic stuff.
Sean, that's the point you kind of made to me at the time, like, because you've an interest in horse racing, but not to the extent that you probably watch it regularly enough. Maybe on a Saturday, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you were glued to your TV, and it was an incredible race.
Yeah, and it was something I noticed with Nicky Henderson after the race, where he kept saying that it was built up and it delivered. Because I think it drew a lot of people in, seeing it build up during the week, and everyone knew where they were going to be for the race. I was going to ask you, Brian. I think looking at it from a general view of horse racing, obviously you and Dan follow a lot closer than I do. I do think that there's a gap in the market for races, and I always wonder. Cheltenham is incredible. It's the festival, if you like. But do you feel that horse racing kind of needs to almost get away from that a little bit, and try and create these kind of rivalries that we'll see for the next couple of years, and then you get to Cheltenham and it's built up? Like, how good for the sport was that race on Saturday?
It was pretty big, I think, and yeah, look, I mean, that was like, that is the biggest point to take away from it. Well, besides the fact that we've 2 top class 2 mile chasers, is that this whole away from Cheltenham thing. But as I said, I think it will be massive, because there's so many high profile races and so many brilliant race courses across the Britain and Ireland, and like you don't have to go too far. I mean, you spoke there about or if you look back at some great race throughout the years, like, I mean, the Tingle Creek at Sandown has provided some of the best. You're on about the greatest finishes and jewels of all time. You can go back, I think it's 2004. Moscow Flyer beat Azerty up, and the whole place went absolutely bananas. And it's funnily enough in the same division. But you've seen in that race over the last couple of years that Sprinter Sacra and these sort of horses are so good that nobody else wants to throw them in. Nobody else wants to throw their stable stars in against them, and they win it every year by 10 lengths. And you don't have to go too far away from home to look at some of the other open company 2 mile chases that have happened. That you've seen in Energumene, we have a Shackham Poursois that have just dominated them, and then they go to Cheltenham when they're finally going to be tested. And I think that now this is kind of create. Because you see, the other thing is that, like, Cheltenham doesn't suit every horse, whereas other courses will suit different horses. Like, it's just the way it's going to pan out. Like, some horses prefer Ascot, some horses prefer Cheltenham. It's the way it's going to be. And I think that's going to provide more inspiration now that it's not the be-all and end-all. The prize money is becoming better. More people are getting involved, and they're trying to expand the sport. And I think that this could really kickstart something now that will make the sport 10 times more interesting than what it is already.
And Dan, I was actually going to ask you on that as well, because we've seen the last couple of times at Cheltenham that the star horses, if you like, haven't quite made it there, and there's such a reliance on March in the calendar. Like, could we potentially see in a year or two the calendar spread out just a little bit more, and those Grade One races really have the right billing, if you like, that there's a Shishkin and an Energumene, and it's a real tight battle, if you like.
No, probably not. It's just unfortunately National Hunt is going, like, there'll be a fifth day of the festival sooner than there'll be a proper racing calendar in Britain. Like, the problem with the Britain racing calendar is there's so many options that you have that you can just dodge away, like either in the 2 mile division or in the hurdle division or the 2 mile fence or chase division, and you end up like a situation where you, like, for Altior, just avoids all the big stars there until the festival, and then beyond it, and then the same with Shishkin. We got a lot of things to go in our favor here in the fact that Energumene wanted they didn't want to run him in the Dublin Racing Festival due to the ground, mainly, I think. Also that right-handed factor that Energumene is ran a lot and does jump a little bit to his right, that they definitely felt that he would potentially be a better horse right-handed. So, like, the opposition in that sense didn't matter too much to Willie Mullins. So a lot of things conspired correctly. Like Shishkin, Nicky Henderson's been getting a lot of stick this year, so I think he kind of almost laid down the ground early that they were going to run in this race. So I just hope that the fact we got such a good race, like you said, the reaction to it, I hope there's that will in racing to see more of these races. But unfortunately, I just think it'll always go back to the norm where we've got very festival focused recently, and I'm a big fan of the Dublin Racing Festival, and I still will be overall. But it does take away. There used to be 2 meetings in Leopardstown throughout January, the Irish Champion Hurdle and then the Irish Gold Cup, and now they've merged that all into the one weekend, which is great for the festival in February. Now, there's a couple of problems with that, like it clashes with the Six Nations in here, hasn't quite captured the imagination in terms of ticket sales before COVID. Now, I think that will pick up this year due to COVID, but I think we're going down this road of loads of mini festivals. Look at the Lingfield Millions this weekend. So I don't think that always adds to, like, if you just keep it to festivals, what happened is there's only a certain amount of weekends in the year, and you can't get a Clarence House on a random Saturday in January that has this amazing race. The Clarence House will always be there on a Saturday, but in terms of if there's too many races and too many festivals, the best horses can avoid each other until these festivals. So what makes National Hunt so special is the Cheltenham factor, and I'm all for that, but it does sometimes get too much, and we have to try and find a balance. Like you said, it won't happen anytime soon. As I said, there will be a fifth day in the festival within the next 5 or 6 years. I'd be fairly confident of that. We'll go to 5 days of 6 races, and we'll build out from there, and it'll just keep going unless there's that will in the horse racing sector to stop it. But there's just too much money for these massive festivals.
And obviously, we're going to discuss our plans to preview it, Dan, just in a moment. Brian, it was about a year ago, I think, that we did our own kind of Cheltenham mini preview with you. A lot's happened in that year, obviously, off the track. Obviously, it was a difficult time this time last year for Gordon Elliott, but then the following month saw the success and the rise of Rachel Blackmore. How would you kind of look back at that last year in horse racing and kind of look ahead towards Cheltenham?
Well, with regards to Gordon Elliott, I mean, he deserves massive credit for the way he's bounced back. I mean, he's had an unbelievable season so far, and he's like became he became the first trainer in Ireland to train 7 winners in the one card in Navan there before Christmas. I mean, that's some feat to have after bouncing back from that year of the horse. You think of the caliber of horse he's lost, the diminished, the factor that would have on his mental health, everything, the way he's bounced back, and he deserves massive credit. And I think he's going to be going with another strong hand as he always does. It's been a great year for racing, and I think that the whole Rachel Blackmore thing last year at the festival was very special because it really promotes racing as being like in terms of, like, you see now in sport, in a lot of sports across the world, that equality is becoming the new sort of the main message. But in racing, equality has been there a lot longer. It's just never really got the recognition. Like, there's no should I say, like, there's no differentiating between men and women in racing. They're jockeys at the end of the day. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female, you're racing off the level playing field. And for Rachel Blackmore to step above and beyond that was fantastic. And she deserved to get all the rewards she got in the RT Sports Person of the Year. And, she's the first lady jockey to win the English Grand National. I mean, that's a massive accomplishment. And you've seen it in the last couple of years in some big high profile races over across the world that they're starting to step up to the plate. I think Neela Carberry was the first woman jockey to win the Irish National 2013. You saw Michelle Payne won the Melbourne Cup in 2015, and it's inspiring more people to get into it. And the last year has really, I think, promoted racing. And I think the fact COVID was there as well, could, as Dan said about the Dublin Race Festival, like more people are going to try to go to that now because they've missed out at Christmas. Obviously, like was a massive dampener on everybody. Like that you couldn't go. I was supposed to go one day. It was an absolute sickener to get a text on Christmas Eve to tell you that the whole thing was cancelled. So I think the next year could be massive in Ireland anyway. Because people want to go. People want to go and see Rachel Blackmore. They want to go and see these people at these big festivals. So I think it's been a brilliant year for racing, and I think it's actually going to. Hopefully, it'll inspire more people to get into it, and we see higher numbers at these festivals.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible individual year for Rachel Blackmore, and also winning the overseas BBC award, which you look at the list of names who've won that. I mean, it's incredible, really. I think she's the first Irish person to win that award as well. Dan, looking ahead to Cheltenham, and obviously you have the details of what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks with Brian. You love it. I know it's one of your favorite weeks of the year. Do you think with everything that happened off the back of the 2020 Grand National, just before the restrictions hit here in Ireland and the UK, and after what happened last year, that like every sport, that the 2022 one will be one of the biggest yet because of that weight, because of that expectation, and because of also what's happened with horse racing and the success of the likes of Rachel Blackmore, and you saw the reception for Shishkin at Ascot the other day. Do you think it's really going to be one of the biggest and brightest yet?
Yeah, a combination of reasons. Like you said, I think the storylines in 2020 and 2021, the great year for Rachel Blackmore. I also think, and I'm following horse racing a while, I don't think we've had as many superstars as we have now. Like even a couple of years ago, not that the sport was starved of superstars, but maybe it was starved of superstars to take on those superstars. And the clash we got obviously last week, it just kind of gets you buzzing going into Cheltenham. But like you start off with the Supreme, you got Constitution Hill, you got Dicer Domino, you got John Bond, you got Sir Gerhard. He was fourth favourite, having won the champion bumper and done nothing wrong over hurdles over 2 miles. Might dodge and go to the Ballymore. That just sets the race up straight away. Nicky Henderson is quoted last week saying he's going to allow Constitution Hill and John Bond take each other on. The owners want that, or they want the Supreme. So that's what we have to look forward to in the future almost. And then the Gold Cup finished last year with A Plus Tard, Manila Indo. It looks like that clash will happen again, but you also have other good horses in there that could potentially upset the apple cart. You got the Champion Chase, like we mentioned. I understand the Champion Hurdle is not that competitive, but Honeysuckle, she's an absolute superstar, and the way she kicked from that turn home, even though I wasn't at the races, obviously I was watching on TV, it was just some buzz watching that race. Even the Stayers Hurdle this year, and Beano might agree that it's actually shaping up to be probably one of the races of the festival for decent enough horses in there. Florence Porter, Classical Dream Champ, Time Hill, a few outsiders there as well. It just seems that it's set up so well, and I think it's a combination obviously after COVID and people be buzzing and to go back watching racing at Leopardstown or Cheltenham or whatever. But the build up to Cheltenham is like nothing like it. And obviously 2 years ago we had it was the last sporting event to have proper full crowds until obviously COVID came in. So it's just to get back there. It's going to be some atmosphere in that place for the 4 days. What we're going to do in Tackling Sports, similar to what we did last time, we're going to split it up a little bit. But we're going to have about a 5-week build up every Monday night. Just I think we're going to start off with the championship races. So the Gold Cup, the Stayers Hurdle, the Ryanair we went through in there, the Champion Hurdle, Champion Chase, Stayers and Gold Cup. So and then we'll move on to the novice chases, the novice hurdlers as the DRF and stuff like that finish off, and then the handicaps, then the other races. And before you know it, it's Cheltenham, and it's happening all over again. And while I was giving out ever so slightly about all the emphasis on Cheltenham, there is nothing like looking forward to the festival. And even watching races, you're watching a 3-mile hurdle race at Christmas, you're thinking about the Stayers Hurdle and where that leaves the picture. And it's just a build up to all the year. Like already now, I think I can name the markets off by heart in terms of the prices and stuff like that. And every race, it's amazing. It's the World Cup every year for horse racing, and it's great to have crowds back next year or this year. So, and it's I think it's 50 days today. I think so.
Not long now, as it said. We've got a few comments in here, Dan. Mike Dara reckons Energumene will get up the hill better than Shishkin at Cheltenham. Obviously, we've got a comment here Beano, for you from David Murta. Can Brian Dowling reveal the Tony Martin good thing for Cheltenham? And there's a bit of inside knowledge gone down in Trim. I'll let you tell us that, but also you can maybe mention Florin Porter in the Stairs.
Yeah, I spoke to Ned Hogarty about 2 weeks ago there for the Irish Field Cheltenham magazine, which will be out in the first week in February, and they're really looking forward to a rematch at Cheltenham with Classical Dream. I think that's going to shape up to be probably that's the race I'm probably looking forward to the most at the moment, apart from the Champion Chase, because I just think that there's so many factors that can be brought into it. Now I know we'll talk about it obviously as the week go on, but I'm very excited, looking forward to that. They're very bullish about his chances. They think that they were very happy with his run at Christmas, and hopefully he can kick on to go on with them further on. As regards the Tony Martin good thing, we can talk about that in our handicaps preview.
Yes. This is interesting, just the odds for the Champion Chase. And like I said, the best part about Saturday, I think, was we already have a rematch in the date. And Willie won straight after, just to stop this Ryanair nonsense that was going around on Twitter that he'll definitely be going Champion Chase, or if he's all fit and well. 3-1 to beat Shishkin, it's a tempting enough price. Like I would firmly be in the Shishkin camp before the race, and I still am in the Shishkin camp. Would 1 in every 4 runs, would Energumene beat him? It's hard to know. It reminds me of Min trying to beat Altior, and the reason I remember this so well is I actually had Min backed without Altior at 2-1. I thought it was a cracking bet that even if he lost, he'd let him second to Altior. But Ruby Watch changed tactics, and instead of making the running, he tried to hold Min at the back or in midfield and try and catch Altior off the hop, and he ended up finishing out of the places. Done my money in, obviously, and must have lost by 10, 15, 20 lengths. So just, I think they will keep it pretty similar to what he ran Ascot, maybe go a tad quicker in the middle part of the race. It's hard to know, but you don't want to overthink the tactical battle, and you just end up finishing nowhere in the race. It will be interesting because Shishkin jumps more to his left and Energumene jumps more to his right. Before Ascot race, it was like, it's definitely going to suit Energumene better running at Ascot, whereas now people are saying that the hill might suit Energumene a little bit better. But I can see a similar run to what Altior produced when he won by 7 lengths that time, and he just towered up the hill, and I could just see Shishkin doing it and the place going, absolutely berserk. So, which it did for Altior, which it did for Sprinter Sacre, which I was lucky enough to be about, but I think it definitely will. I think Shishkin's caught the imagination of the public, particularly after having a battle like that, because nobody likes supporting these odds-on favourites that always win at 1-4. You have nothing to get excited about. That was a proper battle. So, to answer that question, I'd still lean towards Shishkin. I think it's priced about right, but you can't rule out Energumene. There's worse 3-1 bets out there, I'd say.
Pino, just looking ahead to the Pressbury Cup, after last year, that it was people in England were writing about the death of English horse racing, and that Ireland were going to take over and dominate the Irish trainers for the next few years. I kind of liken it almost to the Ashes, really, with what happened there in the aftermath. Just looking at it, Nico de Boinville 20-1, and he's the top priced British jockey to be the festival lead, and Patrick Mullins is the same odds. I mean, it really is like a golden age for Irish horse racing, but also the fact that with crowds there, with the Irish over in Cheltenham, I mean, it truly could be a very special week for everyone in Irish horse racing.
Yeah, and I think the British racing public should be delighted that they have a horse like Shishkin to kind of keep their spirits alive, because I think Ireland are leading something like 23 out of the 28 markets already, or something like that for and I think it's going to be a similar result to last year. I mean, there's so many races that they just have such hands in to play. Now, the British are very strong novice hurdlers. Obviously, we've seen some of them in that sort of division, that they seem to be coming with a bit of a wet sail. So, going down the line, that could well change. But I kind of do think this result could end up being a bit like the Ashes. I think it could be, and a bit like last year. I think that a lot of what they have here is very, very strong. And I mean, you're just looking at some of them, the preparation that is not, like you saw Allaho yesterday. Absolutely, like, Rex Sweat going around Thurles. I mean, like, he's gone into 5-4 already for that Ryanair. That's another championship race Ireland have to favour for. Pretty sure they're the favourite in them all, bar the Champion Chase. So I mean, it could be another demolition job.
And we mentioned the Supreme. It's if they don't win that with Constitution Hill and John Bond, you may as well pack it in.
You may give up. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, it's a special week. I know you've been over a good few times. How much you looking forward to? You hoping to get over
It,
again?
I'm hoping to get over it again. Well, we'll see at the moment, but it's honestly it's hard to describe when people aren't there or haven't been there before how incredible a place it is. It's like the hill is just so much bigger than you imagine. It's a proper hill. You're a bit tired if you walk from the final hurdle or the final fence up to the stands, but the atmosphere that place generates is amazing. I mentioned the Sprinter Sacre race. Like that's a race that I done the so in a few multiples at 4 to 6, and Sprinter made his move. The place went berserk, and I was going, "Geez, no one fancied Sprinter at all." And all of a sudden, they're all having like, do you know what I mean? But the way the atmosphere that place builds, it's just amazing. After the championship races, not that it empties out, but the last couple of handicap races, everyone's really on the favourite at that stage. So if you're on the 3-1 fav, you've got the crowd involved, and if that wins, which has happened, the odd time, the place goes nuts. It's as if you've won the Gold Cup. Do you know what I mean? So especially a lucky last or whatever. It's just the atmosphere the place generates. It's the mecca of horse racing. It's the best 4 days of horse racing in the calendar, probably. And obviously the other festivals trying to give it a run for its money. But in terms of maybe in quality, like the Dublin Racing Festival days, they're probably as good, if not better, those 8 race day cards. But Cheltenham is just Cheltenham. Like it is a pity that there are a lot of races now. So like Gallop and Deschamps, Bob Ollinger, Fernie Hollow, they're not going to take each other on this year, which is a shame. They're all got their different races probably. And even in Allaho, like it would be think of the madness we'd have trying to back Allaho in a champion chase, or can he do it? Is he quick enough for 2 miles or 3 miles? But we have the Ryanair there. So that's the one thing I would say. But so hopefully there becomes more and more of these horses that doesn't become an issue. But I think it's a broader issue for horse racing that it is probably a little bit diluted a small bit, which is why I'm buzzing about the Supreme, because it's rare that you get those 3 novices in the same year. So hopefully they all make it to the post. But yeah, Cheltenham is. It's as I said, 50 days to go, and it'll be every day at around midnight just before I go to bed, having a quick look at a few markets on Odds Checker, maybe watch the odd replay and maybe place the odd bet.
And if anyone does watch those Cheltenham previews, which there are lots of, and everyone always says they spend too long speaking of the first race of the festival, and I think they might have that problem again this year with the Supreme. But just before we go, obviously we're going to be doing a lot of coverage here over Tackling Sport. So anyone listening now, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Get us on YouTube, and we're on TikTok as well. We'll find a few funny videos to put out. Just, I suppose, what you're looking forward to most, not just over the festival because we're still a bit out, but with the Dublin Racing Festival, with a few meets still to come before the big one. What are you kind of looking out for before we get to the middle of March?
I'm looking forward to Leopardstown next weekend. More so, I'm looking forward to seeing Honeysuckle back. I'm looking forward to seeing Fernie Hollow again, trying to establish his Arkle credentials to get stronger again. I'm looking forward to seeing the juvenile hurdle, the Triumph Market at the Dublin Race Festival as well. Like Phil Dorr winning that race at Christmas. That's always seemed to give a lot of pointers towards Cheltenham. And of course, you have that bumper that Kilcrut won last year by about half the track, and there's a couple of really interesting horses that could potentially run in that could go forward. Like, and I mean, you saw them at Christmas, the likes of Facile Vega and Redemption Day, and these sort of horses that have absolutely romped up. So that's going to be very, very interesting. But I mean, I think from looking forward to it now, I mean, a repeat of what you had on Saturday, if that happens, you'd have a pretty happy week. So.
Same to you, Dan.
Yeah, we did test this on Thursday, which would be a very fascinating race. I'm interested for a lot of reasons. Like Longhouse Poet's been put up. This is more not to do with Cheltenham now, but he's been put up by a lot. So he's been crashing 25-1 to 7-1. Interesting how he runs. Scaria 10 is a horse I've pin marked for the Grand National. Be very interested. This is his seasonal reappearance, so I'll be very interested if he finishes 6th, 7th, 8th, gets a good run into him. They might go straight to Aintree there. I don't think he's a bad price at 33-1 to win the Grand National. In terms of the Dublin Racing Festival races, the Irish Arkle really interests me. So you've got the favourite in Fernie Hollow, the Cheltenham Arkle favourite, and the Irish Arkle favourite running there. And he's Blue Lord is also Simon Near confirmed he'll be running in that race as well. I'd give him a squeak potentially running really well here against Fernie Hollow. So he'd be maybe about the 5-6 to 1 for Cheltenham race anyway. I haven't looked at the Irish Arkle prices, but I'd be interested in how he gets on. He could put it up to Fernie Hollow. There's just so many good races. Then you've got obviously the Irish Gold Cup. Minolendo will be running in there, fell in it last year. I still think he's got a squeak at the Gold Cup. No matter how he runs in the Irish Gold Cup, because I just think we make this mistake every year, and people say it's overstated sometimes. Cheltenham form, I don't think it's stated enough. So look out for him in the Irish Gold Cup. There's so many good races. Chac and Poursois, like I would rule him. I wouldn't. Not that I'm giving him a chance in the Champion Chase. I want him to line up. If you made the case that he underperformed at Cheltenham last year, which he probably did, look, if he wins, the hype train will start about Chac and Poursois again. I'd like to see that. He's running 11%. So look, I'm praying that the ground is staying relatively soft, so there's no horses pulled out on the day or whatever. Hopefully they got their act together there. But there's some, I think, is it 8 grade ones over the 2 days? It's absolutely ridiculous stuff. Yeah. So and now those 8 grade ones, they're all top-notch horses. So it's as good a racing as I mentioned as you'll get at Cheltenham. It's probably better those 2 days in terms of quality. And hopefully we get a few good clashes. But yeah, I think Blue Lord against Fernie Hollow will be an interesting battle now. So looking forward to that.
Well, as I said, we're going to be counting down on the Tackling Sport social media and across all podcast platforms as we build towards Cheltenham. And our resident Cheltenham expert, Brian Dowling, is going to be with us throughout. Thanks for joining us tonight, Brian.
Thanks very much, lads.
And Daniel, as always.
Thank you.
That's all from us for our first episode of Tackling Sport for 2022. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week as we build towards Cheltenham, and the road to Cheltenham is certainly ahead of us. Thank you.